4 people.
Dave's online. Yep, we're 7, so 4 would be a quorum. All right, item number 3, agenda. There is 19, it's a 19-point agenda. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Frank, second by Severson. Any discussion on the agenda? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All right, we have an agenda. So, Dave, there's only 3 of us in the room and you online at this point.
Yes.
So unless someone shows up late, like, does anyone know if Ken is coming? Haven't heard anything from over there. So I think we'll leave you online while we go through all of this, and when we go to the closed session, we'll just adjourn briefly until you can get here. Does that sound reasonable?
Okay. Sure.
All right. Unless someone else shows up. But.
Okay.
Is Barb online? She said she was going to join online. I don't see her. Okay. That's Barb's. Barb Boyce. Yeah. All right. So that brings us to item number 4, minutes for the November 3rd public safety meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Frank. Second by Turk. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So coroner updates. Did he send you anything?
Yes, he did.
All right. We will briefly do that just
Yep.
since you sent it.
November 2023, they had 14 cases. 12 of the 14 were cremations. Ages ranged from 5 years to 103 years. 1 accident, and the remaining 13 were natural causes. 2 cancer, 5 heart related, 1 aspiration, 2 kidney related, 1 Parkinson's, and 2 dementia Alzheimer's. At this time last year, we had 11 cases in November, with 14 this year. We are at 131 cases for the year. At the end of November, we were at 116 at the same time last year. Best wishes to all for a wonderful holiday season.
All right.
From the corner.
Here's all the deaths and investments.
Yeah. All right.
Happy holidays.
Right. Well, I mean, what's he gonna say? Terrible holiday. Okay, that brings us to, the circuit court judge updates. She's not here. The clerk of court update is done here, and then probate. You said you don't have a budget this time.
Yeah,
Right.
I can talk about budget. We'll save that for January.
Yep, sounds good.
I'll just take 3 or 4 minutes, not very long, just real quickly. So we do have a courthouse security meeting coming up next week on Tuesday. So we'll be looking after that meeting, coming back, and we'll be kind of looking at 2024 security requests and, just what we want to try and take action on. And now that we have capital improvement funds and stuff. So we're looking forward to that. And moving in, directions that of implementing things we've been waiting to implement for a little while. So we're excited about the upcoming year and what might take place. So just on that note, and I can feel free to pipe in on anything too. And then just a couple of minutes, as far as my office, I'm not going to go into anything in detail. This month, we've been especially working on our annual watch reviews. We have those once a year for each person that's under guardianship. And so an attorney is appointed, Cindy from Richland County Health and Human Services, and the attorney both go to visit people under guardianship in person, and when it was COVID, through Zoom, and submit a report to the courts, and then we have to have a hearing on that. So even though those guardianships have been granted, some of those back as far back as 1979, we still have to do that every year for those. So it was just a quick reminder that we have cases that are old cases, but they take work every year out of our time and out of the court's time and everything. So just a quick review that all of that is part of the ongoing work in the office, just for those that are kind of new to the committee, just to give them a quick overview. But other than that, things are going well. The judge is spending a lot of time out of county. She was in Vernon County for 3 days, and then she goes back this afternoon. So again, just a quick note that The judge is working very hard in December. It's cram-packed with everything we can get done until now, until the end of the year. So January looks better, but we are nose to the grindstone until the end of the year.
Nice. Horrible time of year to be that busy. Yes,
So,
that's what it is. Anything else?
no,
All right, thank you. All right, that brings us to district attorney. She said that she was not going to be here today. So emergency management, I noticed that you had Amber Birch on, but she's the EMS side
Oh,
of
okay.
Darren's job. So I think we need to put
John.
John Heinen on.
Okay.
And so I didn't worry about it this time because we weren't gonna have reports from every single department this time, but, so I don't know. So- Yeah, so I asked the circuit court and the other departments to not report this month, so we could spend a lot of time, so, okay. All right, so that brings us to the PSAP and GIS grant monthly update. I don't know if Barb, not the other Barb,
Barb Scott.
Barb Scott is on or not,
She
but
was.
we can skip that too as well and have a year-end review next month. All right, so that brings us to the sheriff's department. So I don't know if those, you're gonna have to, we can't see, can you? Okay, because then because we have to approve the invoices.
So monthly bills.
Monthly
and
bills.
Sheriff's report, please.
Was there anything out of the ordinary on that? Oops.
Not really. Yeah, the squads is a standout. So.
But the
again,
squads,
this
that's
was-
from
this was
borrowing?
Pre-approved by resolution, but yeah,
Yeah, this is from the borrowed money.
the invoices for, the upfitting. came
The
in.
the 2023 vehicles,
Yes.
right?
Yep, so that, with the two vehicles comes to,
The 41,303. So
Yeah.
do we have to approve that bill? Because it's over,
no, it's pre-approved.
oh, because we already did, you're
I
right.
did that resolution back in
Right.
the spring.
Yep.
So,
Sorry, yep.
So the retrofit's about 20,000 a vehicle.
yep, and this year, I actually did accept bids from other upfitters as well. They were all right in that same ballpark, whereas I looked at it as Gen Com, we've been doing business with them. We're gonna have to get our radio equipment and all that service by them anyway, so it was just easier, I think, to have them do the whole thing. Especially since they literally all came in very close to each
Well, I
other.
do think that that's good to check though, to make
That's
sure,
why I wanted it.
yeah, to make sure that we're not, that
Just
they're not
check.
out of the range or out of ballpark, you know.
We had a new upfitter, well, they're relatively new, out of Boscobel. I wanted to see what they could do. And there was a upfitter that we've used in the past that I wanted to see how they'd come back, but they were all like right in the ballpark. So,
Okay.
Yep.
I'm glad you did
By
that
the
though. I
time-
think it's good to check.
yeah,
Just, yeah, the labor,
yeah.
time
it
to
is.
build those is tough.
And there's so much equipment that goes into them. It's not a small job. So, but yes, so that's all, that was pre-approved, but we just got the invoice in last week for them, so.
Okay. All right, any, well, other questions for the sheriff?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, looking at line item number 4, cornerstone service, it looks like there's 3 invoices for $90, like, what was done? Could that have been something done that was like in-house instead of going somewhere and it seemed pretty
Like it's just
inexpensive.
like, they must be like $30 each or something.
So that is,
Could that have been something done like by our people here, like installing like a, whatever it was?
so this one's 66.
Yeah, that was.
So that's an oil, that was a synthetic oil change. The other one was a electrical concern. They had to do some diagnosing and change some fuses. And then, so there's 3 bills that total that $90. And the last one was, well, that one could have been done in-house. Actually, I don't know, because I don't know how involved a headlight is in a Durango, but. in
Sometimes you
theory-
have to take like
in
ridiculous.
theory,
don't have
parts.
we could have done that in-house. That was an $11 bill. They charged us $11 and I don't know, what the bulb was in that, but. For $11. The bulb was $10.95.
Oh, so they really didn't even hardly charge us.
No,
for
they
it.
didn't charge us much at all for it.
It's ridiculous trying to change like headlights in some of the.
Some of
vehicles
them
now.
are rather,
Like, it's
you need
insane.
extra
You
joints.
can't. No.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, I would entertain a motion. I don't think we have a motion on the floor, right? Yeah. Entertain a motion to approve.
I would so move.
Motion by Frank,
Second.
second by Turk. Any other discussion on the bills? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All right, bills are paid. That brings us to your reports, right?
Yes, and I can run through them quick, or we
Should
can,
be there now. Let's give it a whirl.
so November vouchers, we had $65,357.30. Again, big chunk of that was that squad outfitting. 40 jail bookings a month, so we had a bit of a decline. Average number of inmates housed was 28.81. 470 monthly complaints, 40 traffic citations issued, 30 civil process papers served, 8 transports for the month, and average number on electronic monitoring was 4. Monthly activity, we had 717 calls for service in the dispatch center, 106 calls for EMS, and 99 calls for the police department. Also, just briefly touch on it, we are planning to reopen the Huber Center in January. It's been closed since
COVID.
COVID. So I know I think the last couple of budgets, we've been asked, what are we gonna do with that line? We're gonna start using it again. Got some training things we need to do because over half my staff hasn't worked in the jail since we operated a Huber Center. So, I wanna make sure everybody's trained and we're squared away on what
Yeah, 'cause
expectations
that
are.
people leaving and coming back in, right?
Yeah,
Searching needs to
yeah,
be
so.
thorough.
But I think this will help. There's been some issues with people being granted work release that I would rather not have that much freedom, but I have to give it to them because they're granted work release and I can't deny them an income. So I think this will clear some of that up and
Are
take care of
we
issues
using
that
Huber
way.
as a place to house non-Huber people?
We are, but we always have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to that jail report.
The
that-
classification.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've always had people in Huber that didn't have Huber or didn't
So
have a
don't
job.
leave. They don't leave, but people that are in
Yeah.
with them come and go.
But it's usually our lower risk classification group that gets in the Huber
Assume so.
dorm. Yeah. Yep,
That makes sense.
so,
Okay. 28 though is down at least.
yeah, it is down a little.
Is that
So,
the holidays? Do people behave themselves in the holidays? or-
I'm not sure.
We're out of town.
They usually get.
Other jails.
All right. That's all for your reports?
Yes.
Okay. So then that brings us to discussion and possible action on Sheriff's Department uniform allowance. Is that you?
That's, yep, so this came up as we were approving invoices. And I've talked to the sheriff about this and Melissa is aware of it because it came up at finance and personnel. So historically, we have been providing uniform allowance to sheriff's office secretarial staff. And so the IRS regulations are extremely clear on if you are going to be giving somebody a clothing allowance, it has to be for a very, very specific purpose. And so it says that the items must be specifically required as a condition of employment and are not worn or adaptable to general use as ordinary clothing. And so, and they also must be met for reimbursement on clothing allowance. So basically, we have 3 options. We can say, normal office staff, and I think this comes from back in the union days. Office staff typically does not get clothing allowance. We have several office staff through all of the county and no one else gets a clothing allowance. So no clothing allowance, status quo. 2, we can require that any of the items that are purchased with the clothing allowance must have the sheriff's office insignia on them. They must be labeled or more of a uniform type item. Or 3, leave the clothing allowance as it is, but tax it. Because in order for it to be a non-taxable benefit, it has to be that, kind of like the deputies, what they order has to be used for their actual work. So those are the 3 options that you have, but the way that we've been doing it by not making it a taxable benefit for just plain clothes is not legal. So we've been operating kind of rogue for a number of years. So we just need to know the committee's wishes on how you want to move this forward, because we need to take it back to finance and personnel for a recommendation.
So I have a question. I think we wanted them to have like something that identifies you as staff, as sheriff's department staff. Is that,
They do.
That's my
They
understanding.
each have monogrammed, like, they're like
Polos.
zip up
Mhm.
sweaters or sweatshirts. But yeah, they do have that. And I know this, I think this came up as a topic once under Sheriff Bindle, if I'm not mistaken, but
Janetta always?
well, and yeah, and I think historically, like, it was done properly for a number of years, and I was talking with Candace about this, is that it was part of their paycheck, or they got it as a payment, and then the money was theirs to do what they did with. And
So
then
it was
somewhere-
taxed.
Yep, so
But
somewhere,
it was taxed.
somewhere in the mid-2000s, I believe it was, is that was changed. And then it was given as, we're
Reimbursed.
gonna hold this chunk for you and you'll get reimbursed. And then it was no longer taxed. So, I mean, at one point, it probably was a benefit or like compensation, but then that kind of I guess it didn't completely be taken away as a compensation, but it just got changed into where there was more oversight on it.
Yeah, so historically, the Lorna Dilly was the office manager at that time, and she was required to wear a
Logo.
department uniform. It was the
Yep.
color, yeah, and so that was part of it. So that was included at that point. And then as Clay mentioned, we ran into the issue of officers getting the check in their payment, in their regular paycheck, but not getting new uniforms because it was just there. So we had ratty looking uniforms. And when under Tom Haugen and Sheriff Berglund, we said, enough of that. It goes to a separate fund. We make sure you get it, and then you get reimbursed for that. And that's where that transition changed. I also historically, and I don't know where you're at with this now, but we would require the administrator and the typist, whoever, that if we needed them at a scene, they need to be able to go to that scene. If we needed someone to record evidence or to record documents or something at a scene, they are deputized. And they would need to have their stuff and go.
And they need to be in a uniform at that point.
In a uniform or have the gear or have whatever would be needed to
go.
be there. Now, we're not asked, they were never asked to do unsafe or law enforcement activities, but if there was something that happened, an incident, and we needed staff there, that would be part of the sheriff's ability to say go. So we included it at that point. I guess now we're at here. I guess my question is, Amber, what's your input? I mean, you're
That's right.
Well, I think when I was hired, it was under Tom and Daryl, and Tom, at that point had said, as long as it's clothing that you would wear to work or wear to church, it was okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's the way it was. And we do have things that also are embroidered and have the department logo on it, but
But not.
so that's how we were directed.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, and I figured that. I mean, this isn't something you would normally know.
Mhm.
I've just dealt with enough unions and dealt with this enough times, and my former finance director was a former state auditor, so I learned very by the book.
The IRS has rules.
Yeah, the IRS has rules, especially for things like this, and that's where I'm like, okay, this is kind of unfortunate, because you don't want to feel like you're taking something away from someone, but if we're gonna leave it in place, we have to tax it, especially if we're gonna allow just plain clothes. And if we're not expecting them to be in an actual uniform or responding to scenes or things like that, or make it so that, it's embroidered. And I mean, I've had my dispatch units and my jail programmer units where, yeah, obviously black pants, fine, or khaki pants, absolutely, that's part of the uniform. You're not gonna have them embroider the pants. But then all
Sure.
tops and shirts and whatever have to be embroidered or have to be identifiable as sheriff's office type stuff is kind of the rule that has always been in play previously for me in dealing with these situations.
So you're saying it should be a specific dress code that identifies the admin staff should have a logo shirt, tan or black pants, and that would accept the terms of,
I think it would have to be a required where like,
It would have to be a required wear. So yes, Clay would have to say you will
Right.
wear a polo shirt embroidered or a zip up embroidered or a sweater embroidered and khaki or black pants.
right,
Whereas if, you want to just allow the gals to dress as they are now, it would just have to be taxed. That's really the crux of it. It's either a designated uniform that's specific and identifiable or tax it. That's really the only two options, unless you just say, no, we're not doing it. And again, then you're taking away something that they've had. So that's slippery slope.
What is your thoughts, Clay, as far as, do you want them to be identifiable as sheriff's department staff or?
I guess I'm comfortable either way. Like, I don't think at this point I should make it a requirement that they wear logoed stuff. And frankly, I don't think it's necessary for them either. But I guess my where my mindset is right now is, I think that, we need to differentiate. I lean towards more that this was a compensation as part of their pay. And, do we want to take that away? Or do we want them to continue that? Now, I think if they continue it, obviously, clearly, we
Yeah,
need to
that's
tax
what
it.
Yep.
So,
And you guys are okay to make it?
You have to do it the right way, so, yeah.
yeah.
All right.
That would be,
It is what it is. I mean, it is what it is.
that would be my, I guess.
Still a
that would be
benefit, just be less.
My take on it is that I would look at it as a compensation. It's something that they've had. It's been, in a sense, part of their pay for a long time, and I hate to just.
Yeah, how long ago was Berkeley? You've been here a long time then. How many years have you been here?
13 with the department, yeah.
So then my next question would be, typically, I would then, the way we would do these types was it's a lump sum given biannually. So it would be like $250 in May and $250 in November, or whatever. Since it's a $500 amount, or we could do a one lump sum amount. Which, do you have a preference?
I'm looking at you.
I don't, honestly, I don't.
Okay.
Whatever is best.
So maybe one lump sum would be easier on the payroll side, or does it not matter once Tammy's got it set?
That may be a better thing to
Very
see
question.
what
What
works
works better
best
for
for
Tammy.
Tammy.
Okay, well, I just.
Yeah,
wanted to-
yeah.
if you had a preference
No,
first,
I don't.
I'll
Just one less
check
thing
with
for her to keep track of twice a year.
Yeah.
Just once a year. Okay, so do we need to make it like a motion? Or what would you- Okay, so I would entertain a motion if someone would like to make one.
so I would make the motion that the,
Form allowance?
uniform allowance for the administrative staff at this point, because it could be more than two. Right now it's two, but who knows?
Yeah.
Part-time filling. The set currently at the current rate of $500, and that it be taxable, so they can maintain and purchase the uniforms and items they need for the sheriff's department.
Clothing?
I think they should have at least some logo and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's reasonable.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Severson. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All right. Sorry, my iPad went to sleep. All right, that brings us to ordinance 89-7. So I'm going to bring it back up on here where I can actually edit it. So, I think, I don't know if we can possibly get through this whole thing today. I mean, we might have to plug away, but hopefully we can get a good chunk done. It's only 9:05, so we're doing well on time. The sheriff has a couple of things for sure that he wants to talk about. So I guess, so last time I believe we left off, just looking at my stuff here. We got through all the interview stuff, the steps of hiring people. And I think we left off on number 3, leaves of absence for candidates for political office is where we left off last time, I believe.
Okay.
But do you want to tackle, so for sure, I think we need to get the jail administrator position
So if you go back
dealt with.
up to section,
It'll be in a couple sections, right?
uh,
It'll be in the number of positions E.
so section 1, actually it's above number of positions.
Oh,
Types of positions. D. Below road patrol lieutenant, I had suggested we had jail dispatch administrator to manage the position. The holder of this position must be deputized by the sheriff.
jail administrator, jail and dispatch?
Yeah,
Jail / dispatch?
that's what I have on mine, yeah. Do you have the one I sent you?
Oh, hold on. I do.
Because I have it included in that already.
Okay. Yeah.
But there were a few things that after reviewing it again yesterday, after I sent that to you.
That's why I didn't add them. I thought we would just talk about them and I'll add whatever
Yeah. There's a
whatever
few
we.
things I caught that I missed where it would need to be here and there throughout the ordinance.
7. Oh, actually, it's. What's your middle name?
What?
What's your middle name?
Jacob.
Oh, at first I thought it was an I when I first looked at it. I'm like, what? Ignatius? Like what? But then I can see it's a J. That's really tiny though. All right, hold on, it's opening. Okay.
So is that the document you sent out just to Melissa?
Actually, I did just send it to Melissa.
Okay,
That's right.
I was looking at the one that I'm going, I was thinking.
Yeah.
All right.
But it is in the folder now. So John put it in there to be, CJP had it.
Holders must be deputy. Okay, so yeah, I've got the language. Jail dispatch administrator, a management position. The holder of this position must be deputized by the sheriff.
So it's kind of just following the word.
Yeah.
Of lieutenant. And I guess that's, for discussion, that's how I look at it as, road patrol lieutenant's responsibilities will be to road patrol.
So in the hierarchy, it's you, chief deputy, and then these 2 positions. And then their jail dispatch is over here, road patrol's over here with all the
Yes.
other. guys.
Yep.
And,
Exactly,
and
yeah.
persons. Okay, and the investigator, where does that position? Is that person a 3rd one along that same tier?
No.
Or below?
The investigator answers to the lieutenant.
Okay.
So, yep.
Alrighty. Actually, let's go back to the, I don't know why I didn't correct this. So that dispatcher, jailer, the holder of this position must be deputized or may be deputized, which is the correct word that we want in the ordinance? Shall, may, so sometimes you don't deputize them
Most of them are
or not?
currently.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll leave it at may.
The
All right,
ones that are dual certified as law enforcement officers and jailers, so.
okay, so I'm gonna take out the notation about 91.
Was there specific wording in that or 9112 changed it? from
That's when it
must to
changed it from must to may.
may? Okay,
And I just wanted to make sure that's the right words that we want.
Yep.
Okay. And we got rid of the task force deputy in that section, and so that's correct. Okay, so then under E, we would
Yep.
need to add another position. So after lieutenant, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Full time jail. It's one. So that brings your grand total.
So I had it adjusted. I went back through and counted. So we have 34 should be, unless I mathed it wrong. Because we have 14, unless we're removing it. I'm not suggesting we should. But we have the 14 road patrol deputies. We currently only have 13 of those 14 positions filled.
Oh, I have
The
14.
ones unfunded yet.
The ones unfunded yet. Yeah,
1, 2, 3,
I would ask that we leave that position there.
18. 12. 1, 2, 3. I have 33.
Do you have two under full-time, either male or female jailer? Or do you have one?
I have one. So that's
So
supposed
that
to.
was one we added, but we never added by ordinance. You guys said I could hire it.
So we
but
did it by
technically-
resolution.
Technically, it
Budget.
got hired by ordinance. Yeah,
Okay. So I should change that? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I should change that to 2.
yes.
So that would bring it to 34.
Yep.
There's no part-time positions. Is that correct?
Um,
I mean, we have casual,
we don't have, we have correct, we have casual, we have no.
casual and temporary, but no part-time official.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
You talking about the number of people, deputies? You got, one for each assembly district in the county?
Do I?
Yeah.
well, there's only 3
Yeah,
assembly
there's one
districts.
deputy for each assembly district in the county, except the district in which,
Are we talking state assembly?
no,
Or are we talking
Yeah.
county boards?
That's what statute shows.
No, it's state assembly.
Okay.
Yes, it's only 3.
And then you need one for each city and village in the county that has 1,000 or more inhabitants.
So that's only 1. So that's 4 total. I've gone through all these numbers and that statute. And I mean, we have well above what, I find it really interesting that somehow 4 deputies are enough to cover an entire county according to the statute. I mean,
Yeah,
that would be, can you imagine?
no, I couldn't.
I mean, we would not be responding to anything other than dire emergencies. And even then it'd be like, well, we'll get there when we can get there, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so moving on,
Yeah, that's the bare minimum he has to have.
has to have 4, yeah.
Yeah, and that doesn't even mention that's what that's specifically for. Is that specifically for road patrol? Is that to cover the?
It just
jail?
says,
Is
it
that
just
to
says
cover-
deputies.
This is deputy, exactly.
It's a sheriff, under sheriff, deputies. In 10 days upon entering the office of sheriff, the sheriff shall appoint some proper person who is a resident of the county. Whatever.
Right.
So it's down, and you got parent A, one for each city and village in the county that has 1,000 or more inhabitants. And B, one for each assembly district in the county except the district in which chief deputy resides, which contains a village having less than 1,000 inhabitants and does not contain a city or village having more than 1,000 inhabitants. Crazy.
Can you imagine how many deputies you have to have if you have a very urbanized county though? Holy buckets, that would be a lot. Okay, so moving on. So we got through the procedures last time. We spent a long time talking about, what kind of test we're gonna give and stuff like that, just refreshing everyone's memory here. And I think we got that wording, but everyone, I mean, we're not gonna get this done today, obviously,
so one thing I had in procedures, as I made a note of, I didn't change anything, I just made a note.
Yep.
Under hiring, so we are talking.
which letter are you?
I'm just right in the beginning.
Oh, okay.
So we left a piece in here. That was what it was. So if you go down under parent A, that paragraph directly under that. Hiring will only be allowed after an interview with the law enforcement.
Yes,
committee
you're right.
and after the approval of the hire by the committee.
So I thought we decided that it was gonna be a designee, like one person from the committee, like someone designated from the committee.
Yeah,
Instead of trying to get the whole committee together, you would have one person from this committee.
and then after you, in the process itself, you had completely removed the law enforcement committee's involvement in it. So
Which I don't think that's what didn't we talk
we
about
talked about
having a representative, yeah, that would be involved in the interviews. So I'll need to fix that if that's, I see that, I mean, we totally missed that language up there because I see it again, yeah. I mean, there's a couple places where I do think it's important that someone from this committee be involved, only because I think it's just good for the communication between the board and the department. But trying to get a whole committee together really slows the process down, so I don't want, that's why I think I came to that.
So my suggestion, instead of the interview with the law enforcement committee, would be after notification and approval by the law enforcement committee. That way, I mean, we can put in that final interview that a member of the law enforcement committee should be involved in the
Final interview,
But I think, like, we notify you that we're going to hire before we hire, and you either approve or you don't approve. Kind of thing, is the way I.
would
look
that
at
slow it down though? Like, would you not be able to do an official offer to someone until we get done that?
I mean, I don't think, I mean, generally, I've notified you that we're going to be hiring at a minimum a month before we've hired anybody. So I don't really foresee it slowing us down much.
So you're saying you would notify us ahead of time?
Generally, when I say.
And then you would go through the process, and then after you've hired, you would let us know that you hired.
Yeah,
But someone would be involved someone from this committee would be
Somebody.
involved in like, I would say the chair or a chair designee would be
Yeah.
involved in the final interview.
So the final interview is gonna be before who? Just,
it'll probably be like myself, the chief deputy.
Maybe
And
the
then-
lieutenant.
and then a member from here.
And
or-
one member
Or
from
if it's
here.
a jail hire, myself, the chief deputy, and the jail
Okay,
administrator.
all right.
Yep.
I mean, that makes.
And then,
Yeah.
yeah, so it'd be like a 4-person.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
So that wouldn't be then part of an interview. We wouldn't be seeing 4 or 5 people. We'd just be seeing the one that you're selecting.
Potentially, yeah. Yeah, we'd probably just bring the one before and, whoever we feel the top candidate is.
I mean, committee, are we comfortable with this, that we would, I'm trying to think of a way we could streamline this, but yet still be informed, certainly informed, and have some level of input into. I mean, it's not a problem with our current sheriff, but let's just say we get a sheriff that we don't necessarily see eye to eye with. Do we want to make sure that that person isn't hiring sub?
Right, and I think
Standard.
that's why this committee has had the oversight or the time to go.
Exactly.
Here are 4 people, let's have a conversation with them. And I think that comes from exactly what you said.
Right, it's
Previous
not an
call.
issue right now. I mean, I would be fine to hand it over to
Yeah,
Clay
I get it.
completely.
Right.
But what if Clay's not the sheriff and we have someone else who
Right.
may or may not see eye to eye with the committee? I think
And
that's
might
where we
be
need to
friends
think about
in
this.
the Process.
I mean, because you certainly hear about counties where the sheriff and the county board do not see eye to eye. It
Absolutely.
causes a lot of issues. And so I think that's where this ordinance came from. I'm sure that's where this
Right.
ordinance came
Oh,
from.
yes.
So trying to balance, I want to balance it with letting him do his job and doing it efficiently with still being able to make sure that we have some sort of recourse if things go awry, I think is.
Right, and my concern with that is just seeing the last candidate really does not give this committee a perspective as to who was available.
Mhm. I think we could still do like a top 3 or a top 5 even.
I think that's.
I think the point, the biggest point that I wanted to see come out of it is that we streamline the process, because getting the entire committee together
Heading.
it's a headache, and it takes time that we need to hopefully get the candidate we
Right, it
want.
could be
Yeah.
2 months.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
And people will take other jobs.
And that's just it.
candidates, and-
They'll take
Yeah,
other
these
jobs.
days you have to
So
move pretty fast.
Where in the process could that committee member come in to your hiring process? Could that be when when you and the chief deputy are sitting down with 3 or 4 candidates?
I think so,
I think that's probably a better place at the end when there's a.
Well, it would essentially be the same thing you've done before. You usually let all the candidates see with the deputies or the jailer dispatchers. And then the next step is you guys sit down and have the meeting, and then that's the meeting.
That's the point.
And that's the point where, and so it'd be
Get
exact,
together.
it'd be the same. It's just that we wouldn't all have to be there. It'd
Right.
just be one of us there.
Yeah. Yep.
So a lot easier to schedule.
yes.
Okay,
Much
so,
more comfortable with that.
all right, so I won't wordsmith that right now. I'm gonna write myself a note to fix that language. And that way we won't have to spend the entire time.
The other thing below that in C, so this is a hiring for a secretary position. It says the law enforcement committee shall screen all applicants for the secretary position to ensure that they have a minimum qualification necessary. I'm not, one way or another, I made a note, do you guys want to be directly involved in that process?
We aren't now. We don't screen them, you do.
Yeah,
But there haven't been any.
there haven't been.
Hirings.
Yeah.
Thank you, Amber, for not having.
Yeah, but, and so that was, just as I was reading through it, I made that note, like, do you guys want to be involved in that process, or do you want us to?
I think it could follow the same process as the deputies. if
They
there's-
could, yep.
Yeah, just change the language to all positions within the sheriff's department. Just change it to that.
And that makes sense, that makes
I think
perfect
that's,
sense.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Right, just let me make a couple notes. Okay, so there's a couple places within that A, I'll have to change it, and then C, so I'll change that language. All right,
Can I step in with Candace here? I got a question. I wasn't here last time. Maybe this has been addressed on the very first page. Item number 6, the responsibilities of the committee. Item number 6 is to act as a grievance committee in case of grievances by an employee to the department arising out of the department. Is that,
I feel like it goes to finance.
I don't think that that's here.
Well, by ordinance, it should be, but the last couple of times that I have taken disciplinary action, the grievance process went through finance. So-
Right, so I saw that. I'm kind of going,
Should I change that language to finance
well, is it,
or delete it?
What does the union contract say?
I feel like the union contract says this committee, but we have not done that.
I think the union contract does,
Because I can go, otherwise I can go grab it out of my office. Too.
Okay.
I'll go grab it.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean.
there's a
because
gray
the
area.
jurisdiction should be consistent with whatever is in our
And the
collective bargaining
employee-
Yes.
agreement.
and the employee handbook says finance. But
Yeah, but the employee handbook covers those non-union.
yeah,
Right, where union is different. So non-union, yes, if it were some of your non-union staff, I think that would follow the county personnel policy.
Yeah,
But in this case, for your bargain staff, I think you need to follow whatever's in the collective
I
bargaining.
think that's the problem with this ordinance not being in one place with everything all, like not having all the amendments added and
Yeah.
having one that you can just pick it up and say, this is the ordinance. I think that's one of the things that falls through the cracks is all of a sudden we are sending our grievances to finance when. So I'm gonna leave that in there until we figure
Yeah,
out,
it just,
that's
I will say the last couple that we've had,
I know they went to finance.
they went to finance.
That was
That was with union representation directly involved in the process, so.
So they didn't seem to care that it was, I mean, they probably didn't realize,
Yeah, well, I mean, they should know the contract as well as I do.
right?
And I'm trying to think, I don't know if the grievance procedure spells out that. it would
What
be
agency?
enforcement committee, which
what
committee?
department, which committee, that's what, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about the.
Okay. So we added in D, we added the jail dispatch and in E, we added the numbers. We got the number to 34. So then we get to procedures and standards for hiring. So that's the interview with the law enforcement. So we did that committee. Does anyone need to review any of the other changes we made within that section?
Got rid of the standardized test from DOA. Something in here, I just gotta find it.
So you're looking, going through that, there's the $25,000 that's hereby appropriated for the contingency fund. Does that even need to be in there?
Hold on one second.
Okay.
Which section are you talking about?
So we just got done talking about the number of, employees, 34, and then I've got a line in my copy here that says $25,000 is
Yeah.
2014.
We should be able to delete that, right? Because that was done in 2014 and it doesn't happen every year, right? It was just done the one time. So it's the first paragraph right after the number of.
Right, I believe that was to cover funding for that temporary position. I don't know. So
Which position would that have been?
Is that the one that we didn't fill after? It was like a
Yeah.
safety. It was a COPS grant, wasn't it for the COPS
That's what I was
grant?
wondering if it was a
Cost share?
funding. Because the 25, because the cost grant would have been for 75, that 25 would have matched 100, but 2014 doesn't make any sense.
No, I don't, unless we tried for a COPS grant in 2014, but I don't.
But regardless, it's not relevant anymore, right?
Right.
It was a one-time thing in 2014, so why is it in the ordinance still? It doesn't happen every year, right?
Well, it can't according to this even, because it says shall start on, I don't know.
Yeah, but it says in the 2014 county budget to fund this position. It doesn't say 2023, it would say.
Right.
Yeah.
years.
I mean, is this? Because we do have one position that's unfilled. Is that the position that's unfilled, the COPS grant position?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah, so that means that we are not appropriating money at all, right?
Well, that person was retired long before 2014.
Yeah, I know, that's right.
Retired in 2000.
Oh,
Something like that, and we sunset it, because we put a sunset clause on the cops grant when we did that.
yeah, I remember that because all that language was originally in this.
Yeah, so I don't know, no idea.
That's Pam?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna delete that unless, I mean,
I
we
think
can, I mean, this is all gonna go past our corp council, so there's some, and I'll, leave it as a deleted.
Yeah,
Okay. All right, so then that brings us to salaries. That's not changing, right? That's still gonna be set by the county board. Okay, so now we already talked about the hiring in section 2.
so there was some edits in, because I'm lost at where you're at.
So we are on section 2, so procedures and standards for hiring new personnel. We talked about the first paragraph.
Okay,
Where it still says law enforcement committee shall interview. So I have notes to change that language. Which means I will also, I have a lot, like we deleted step 8. We deleted a lot of that language about first oral interview.
so that was one thing, just discussion on step 8. Do we want to label that there will be a final interview and
Yeah, I made notes.
committee chair?
Step 5, I made a note to change to chair of public safety or designee sheriff and yep.
All right.
I did change that language based on what we just talked about. I have no changes in 6 or 7. I have 8 as deleted.
Yeah.
No changes in 9, 10, and then F, we just deleted the task force deputy. Is there anything else from that paragraph that you
Nothing that I,
noted?
Okay, so I'd like to step up to what my sheet says is number 4, applicants with a pending criminal charge.
Or what?
step 4?
Step,
No, that's physical agility testing.
it's right after, procedures and standards.
Oh, are you in the next section?
Oh, yeah, under section D,
Oh, I thought that's where we were.
4,
Yeah.
applicants with a pending criminal charge or a criminal record, as those terms are defined by Wisconsin statute, will be considered for employment on a case-by-case basis. Persons convicted of a felony are ineligible
yeah.
by virtue of Wisconsin statute to apply for the positions of road patrol deputy, sheriff, or investigator.
Right, so the exact comment, so the 2 questions of that is if you're limited in it to Wisconsin statutes, if you have a felony charge in another state that Wisconsin doesn't consider a felony or a criminal charge, they could have that in Texas.
I think,
I would interpret that as across the board, any and all.
Okay,
I
even though it
think-
says defined by Wisconsin statutes.
but I think it means those terms, criminal charge or criminal
Okay.
record as defined by
That works
statute.
then.
Yep, I would agree with that.
So then the other part of that is, it says, persons convicted of a felony are ineligible for the deputy position or road investigator. Jailer dispatchers will not be allowed time access if they have a felony conviction. Are you willing to have jailer dispatchers in there with a felony conviction, because they can't even look at a time record?
Yeah, actually,
What's the time record?
my hiring postings say no felony, no domestic.
So I should just say positions
Right,
of
that's what I'm thinking. I think it should be everything. Otherwise,
all sheriff's department staff? Would admin? Would you hire an admin with a felony?
No.
So all sheriff's
They're
department staff?
certified.
well, they'd have access to the time system, which is federal, which, the time system is when you run criminal histories or you run license plates or you look up history on people, so.
So I'm gonna just say all positions within the sheriff's department. Office? Did you want office?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
All right, so then E below that, we had some language change there. Deleted. Shit. Okay, so, I mean, we keep kind of going back and forth. Is there anything above, like, the first oral interview, step 5, is there anything above that?
Not that I see.
I'm good.
Okay, all right, so I'm gonna keep going past the interview stuff that we've already talked about. All
But then I have a question on step 10.
right,
Yeah. I
go
do
for it.
Okay.
So Bob, you go for it.
Well, some of this stuff is required. The one thing I don't see on here is a background check. Internal background checks.
It
It's
is,
in there somewhere.
Is it?
oh, where is it?
I see the psych, I see the recommendation, I see the physical, completion of a probationary period.
Where is that? I've read through this thing like 3 times this week.
Well, I think it should be listed under item 10, because appointment to a position is contingent based on its completion of, I think a background check would be one of those.
The background check falls under, it's actually supposed to be done before then by.
Oh, okay, all right.
Step 2, the application will be reviewed to make sure applicants meet qualifications. A criminal record,
Yeah.
a criminal record check, not a background check.
It's not, no.
Yeah.
It's a part of it, but it certainly is not a full background check.
It's a background check.
I was gonna
Much
say-
more in depth.
Much more.
You're
Really?
gonna knock on
Yeah.
doors,
Talking to
You're gonna XY.
neighbors.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
That's what Lake Delton does. I think that's absurd.
Madam Chair.
Oh, God, take the finance backgrounds on them, that's what I do for chief positions.
So Clay, walk me through. So they apply, you do just make sure that they qualify.
Yep.
You interview,
Correct.
then you have your selected candidates.
Yes.
All right, so then, once you have that selected candidate, do you then give a conditional offer, a contingent offer based on successful completion of background check, psychological check, medical exam, blah, blah, blah?
Yes.
So you do that contingent offer,
Yep.
the conditional offer that you can then rescind if they don't pass one of those. Then, once they're good to go, they've passed everything, then you give them their offer letter with an actual start date.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Just making sure that we're following all
So I
of
think
the,
background check should be included
Yes.
in that,
So I would
in
add
step
that.
10.
I would add that
right?
as a step in step 10.
I mean,
Because it's what we do, but it's just,
Gotta be identified.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
otherwise
you go to people's neighbors and talk to them.
There's a entire packet we give them that they have to fill out that tells us, who your last, who your landlords were, who your, and you go and dig into, it's a time consuming thing. But yeah,
the landlord piece of it is huge.
Yeah.
Getting that information is great.
Yeah. Try and track down former neighbors, stuff like that, yeah.
are all background checks like that or just law
To
enforcement?
varying, I would say they're all similar. That it's just varying degrees How
Governor
far-
did a background check
far-
on me before I got appointed to the Southwest Regional Planning Commission. Wondering who they talked to. No one ever said, hey, did you know this person? I got
Well,
called.
and yeah, it all,
I don't know. It just said background check. I had to sign all this paperwork saying I was getting a background check.
Oh, you should have an FBI one. They're really fun.
Interesting.
they are.
They're really.
Anyway, okay, so I added it as an item in 10 as a background check.
Thank you.
Good, that's a good point, because we do want to make sure that we're doing that, and we are doing it, so we should make sure. It's Okay, so that brings us to F. I deleted task force deputies. Is there anything else in F that needs to be commented on, talked about? What about G? I added part-time / casual road patrol deputy language. Anything else? G? Part about them being certified by the state of Wisconsin as a law enforcement officer.
Yeah.
And then F is a full part-time jail dispatcher. They attain the part-time shall be certified by the state of Wisconsin. Any part-time is not so certified at the time of the appointment, an opportunity to attend one full or part-time jailer school, which we do, right? And then I, that's persons who have full-time employees, who have been full-time employees, who retire from such employment may be rehired as casual or temporary, as long as they purpose of the section retired in the same meaning as in the WRS. All right, so that brings us to 3, leaves of absence for candidates for political office and conduct of department employees in regard to political activity. Anything we need to add in there?
So my note on there falls under item C, an employee of the department may display political signs, blah, 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 blah. So it's not. So, yeah, I can display a political sign on my house or my car, and there's absolutely nothing because that's my free right to do. Why is this in here? One, is this because they can do it on duty?
I don't know.
I mean, I know they can't do it on duty, but we're saying that we're saying an employee may display political signs, and we're putting this in policy. It kind of sounds like they can do it on duty.
I mean, maybe what we need to say is that they just cannot do it on their squad car. Or,
I'm sure.
I mean, is that the
I'm sure
point?
that's an issue was.
I'm
I'm sure there
wondering.
was.
No, I'm wondering, it's,
I'll mention who later maybe, but.
right. So I think the point of this is that we're not saying you can't do those things. but
Right.
You can't do those things on county property, like your squad car, especially now that they take them home.
Well, a squad car or a uniform,
Or
there's all
uniform.
kinds of things they can't.
That's where I think any political activity is prohibited during business hours while in uniform or on county property.
Right, and then you could get rid of everything.
And then you can get rid of
Cool.
everything.
So that brings up the sticky little issue though, like what if you have a political candidate visiting our sheriff's department?
So,
That's
Like
fine,
it's-
as
like it's
long
happened
as the
in
sheriff
Yeah.
doesn't appear to be endorsing.
So it's just them visiting and
Right.
touring our
That's fine.
facility and getting
But,
information about our
Like,
staff.
I actually had this happen.
Well, we did too.
The sheriff decided to endorse a candidate in his uniform in front of the courthouse and do a TV ad.
So what do you do about, like, because a lot of candidates say I'm endorsed by, like, the, you know, all, like
And
58
that's-
sheriffs endorse me, like,
That's
Um,
their right as an elected official
Yeah.
to endorse someone else. That's fine, as long as they're not wearing their,
I can actually do it in uniform. I think,
you
but-
can, as long as you can't read the patch.
So, and so the instance that we ran into here was a political or a candidate for Congress.
stuff.
Well,
Van Orden. right?
Van Orden stopped in and had his, entourage of people with him, right?
His social media guys.
His social
Taking
media
lots of
guys.
pictures.
And so I gave him a tour of the facility. And at one point, our canine came into the room and there were pictures taken of him with our canine, and that it was, they posted that on their social media account, that they toured the facility and they had pictures with our canine. And that kind of blew up into people were saying
The
that
political
we were
opponent.
using county resources and
That's
county.
not an endorsement.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
quite the stretch to say that because
Yeah.
he was petting the dog.
Yeah, I think the issue was is that I had already prior endorsed him.
Okay.
So that was, I think, probably had already hurt some feelings at that point. And-
You will never get away from that.
Yeah.
When President Bush was here, we got all kinds of people screaming that we should not be, law enforcement
Spending
shouldn't
county
be
money.
funding, we shouldn't be doing this. But as soon as we did it for his candidate, Kerry, we sent people there to help out and take care of his security in Iowa County. They didn't complain about that, so
So-
you're not gonna get away. The job is,
So is the language in C though, I mean, I agree. What it says here is like, well, he already has the right to do those things. So do we just need to define what is not allowed to do?
well, what any of the employees are, yeah, they cannot do anything
But
that's.
you got the Hatch Act. I mean, the Hatch Act
Yeah.
pretty much says that,
What?
realistically, the Hatch Act,
Hatch
that you
Act.
cannot use your position to lobby one way or the other for any political party.
So do we even need to,
Political.
so do I need to even put this in here? Do I delete that
That's-
section?
Unless we want to make a point to say that you cannot do any political activity on duty.
Don't we have a uniform policy of what is gonna be on your uniform or displayed on your uniform?
Yeah, so there would
That
be,
should fall in that. There should
So we
be
don't need it in
something.
this ordinance.
It's not on your uniform.
Yeah.
Like you got a uniform policy that says that you need to have this, you can't.
What about the
display
car
anything else
policy?
but these
The
things.
car say we can't put bumper stickers on and stuff like that?
I would have to go.
That
back
should
and
be a
look at the
county-wide
update.
thing.
It should,
Yeah.
it should.
And
Yeah.
that should be. covered.
Countywide vehicles.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So-
you can't
So
display-
so it's really not appropriate, I think is what I'm hearing. So I can just delete C because this
They
is
can
already
do that.
addressed
They
either in
can do it
statute
their own time
or,
in their own residence on their own vehicles, but it can't be on.
And as long as it's not derogatory to the existing administration,
Yeah.
there's some rulings on that. It's the three-word rule on that. So, and that's.
Here's another thing to think about too, is like, say Clay's running for office again and these deputies go out while on duty, say, hey, you're fired.
Yeah, no.
But,
No.
yeah, that's why I don't want to do that.
so do we need to say that or is that written somewhere else?
Then I remember Daryl
Melissa.
Bergman.
That's a head.
Would you highlight that and let's talk with Attorney Mendel?
So, yeah, I would just say that
I have a policy in
It-
mind, but
if you're gonna do something on that they're allowed to engage in political activity, but it must be done in their own time. It can't be done on county time. You know,
I really think you should just flip that around and say, you can't do it on county time.
So have it in here.
Yeah, just can't do it on county time.
But you can go
I
and
can.
campaign with your shirt, your uniform shirt, right?
I
'Cause
can't.
I remember Daryl Bergman coming to my house.
yeah, he can.
Because it's, the Hatch Act has some weird things for the sheriff.
Mhm.
What's a
But-
hijack?
It's government officials engaging in political activity.
Political
Oh,
activity. So when I worked
Yeah.
at the State Department, that was a huge thing, but
Okay.
it's anybody who's an elected official especially as
Yeah.
well.
Because
Okay.
there's no delineation to when I am on or off duty. So there's some different restrictions for me,
Mhm.
because I'm considered to be on duty.
Okay, just a time check here, everybody. I think to inspect the jail by 10 o'clock
Okay,
so that we have plenty. I don't want to short the jail inspection. And we need to give Dave time to get here.
Okay.
So, and we haven't even gotten past what we reviewed last time. So-
Clock being up.
I know, I hate that there's no clock there. It needs to be like there now or
I
something.
like that. clock.
I know, me too, because I'm always like, where's the clock on my? I think we should have just a separate meeting just about this, because I feel like we really need to do due diligence and not be rushed and just be able to talk about it. But let's keep going. We still have 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So, all right, so I'm gonna highlight that section and I'm going to
Yep.
say that we'll probably say something like you just can't, no political.
Circle back.
Yeah.
Is there a county policy that says anything about?
is that touched on in the
Yeah.
ethics ordinance at all?
I don't
That-
know,
but
I'll
the-
pull out the 75
ethics-
different policies that we have and try to wade through and see which ones say what.
I think the ethics ordinance is only county board.
That's only
It's
the
not-
board,
is it
right?
not-
It doesn't
Well,
address
department
employees.
heads.
Does it?
There's a part or two where it talks about department heads, but no, should be something that's worked in
Okay.
policy as a whole, yes.
So then the next section is section 4, provision for chief deputy and powers of the chief deputy. So one question, Carrie and I were talking, and one question, so everywhere in the statute, it says that you appoint the undersheriff. It never uses the term chief deputy.
I would look at the terms as almost
Interchangeable.
interchangeable. And that's not necessarily, it's department by department, because there are departments that have undersheriffs and chief deputies.
And that's the conversation that we were thinking we wanted to have. Because whenever there's a new sheriff, there can be a lot of upheaval. Like if there's, especially like, let's take when Berglund and Bindle
Yep.
ran, right? That was messy, right? Like didn't him and his chief deputy who had been in place for a long time, they both left, right?
Yeah.
So what happens to the institutional knowledge when your two top administrative people walk away? I don't know what it was like, but Amber, I'm thinking you can probably tell us.
And the lieutenant's appointed by you, right?
No, the lieutenant.
No, that comes through this committee by
Yeah,
ordinance.
the lieutenant is the,
So Dane was the person who was the institutional knowledge when
Well-
that all happened? Or
Bob-
you were the lieutenant?
yeah, me and David Krieger. We
You stayed?
Yeah, we stayed.
So the question we were talking about was, from a county board standpoint, when that kind of because that can happen in theory, it can happen every 4 years, right?
Yes.
Because I don't know how many times the new sheriff comes in and appoints the same chief deputy.
Actually, it's fairly often.
I mean, we even had a little bit of that when Chad left. You had to dive right in. You didn't know. I mean, you had to dive right in and it was, so I guess what we were talking about is maybe it would be in our best interest for you to have an undersheriff that you appoint that has duties like we would figure out. But then there's this chief deputy position that would be stable, that's not appointed by the sheriff, that would have the budget knowledge and, mostly that end of it, the part that we really have to keep track of from our perspective, because that's our role, is to make sure that we're the ones that give you the money to do your job, right?
So I guess I have mixed feelings about this. I'm gonna go back to that. So I was elected to run the office. I need my number 2 person to be a person that I choose and I trust
Which would be the undersheriff,
to carry out my wishes.
right?
He's the undersheriff.
So what, and then this is where it gets really muddy now. What powers does the undersheriff have over the chief deputy or the chief deputy over the undersheriff?
Yeah, I don't know. That,
So
I think it'd be
so-
interesting to
The
talk to.
Department of Justice has put out the language that the undersheriff equals chief deputy. So they can be used interchangeable. Now, it's not in the statutes, that's in the Department of Justice
I
decision.
was gonna say, it's not in the statutes.
No,
it's
it's
only
not
in the
statutes,
sheriff.
it's an opinion from the Department of Justice. I'm not sure what Attorney General, might have been Schimmel at the time. He was prior to him, came up with that. Vernon County has both. He has appointed a undersheriff, which is the head of the jail, I think. Bruce is undersheriff.
Could be, yeah.
And then he has a chief deputy that helps run the office. So
Does he
it's actually
appoint-
both.
Does he appoint the chief deputy or does the county board appoint the chief deputy?
I believe over there, that's a civil service position.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Did not know that.
I mean, from our perspective, it's more about just what can we do to have continuity so that we don't have
So
a whole upheaval and then the budget's completely out of whack because nobody understands anything that's going on,
in a perfect world, you would have succession planning and you would work with whoever your successor is going to be.
Yeah, but we all know about that.
Yeah.
Especially when politics get involved.
Yeah.
Because, right, it's gonna be a rival who wins. And then, and you
I mean-
probably have department staff who are for that person and department staff who are not for that person.
In my mindset, if that were to happen, I would not want to just see the department outright fail because I was no longer in charge. In my mindset. Yeah,
I would say you're not necessarily typical
yeah.
of what I've seen, just, in general.
Well, politics is.
It's just
nasty
messy.
game.
It's messy.
Yeah.
Sucks.
But I
think it's something we should consider. We don't have to talk about it right now. Let's just kind of think about the pros and cons of, like, you can come up with the reasons why you think it's bad, but also try a little bit to think about what might be good about that.
well, I think.
And what would be the balance? How would we make sure that you have the authority to
I
run your
think it's-
department?
I think if the person who is put into the chief deputy role, like with the right person and they're gonna be the chief deputy, like I can see that working just fine. If the wrong person gets put into that, I can see it being an issue.
Right.
Where
I mean, maybe the way to balance
the
that
amount
is
of
that,
protection that person then has. And don't get me
Right.
wrong, like, Aaron's a rock star. But if it wasn't Aaron and it was somebody else that I couldn't trust, or, you know, in that instance, is you could create a lot of issues in the office.
You could go months before you could get rid of or discipline somebody if you don't have the authority to go, I'm done with you,
Yeah.
move on. I think
Yeah.
the sheriff has to have that authority, for that position.
okay, well, I don't want to beat it to death
Yeah.
today. I think I just wanted to bring it up so we could start just thinking about it, and we can circle back and have more conversations about it. And you can convince, I mean, I don't know that it's good, I don't have an opinion whether it's good or bad.
There's a few articles out there, like one from Bayfield County talks about.
The pros and cons, or just,
Kind of.
yeah. And then there's other counties that are doing it, so.
It's done differently.
So we could talk to a couple and just see what they think the pros are and what they think the drawbacks are. I'm sure from the sheriff's perspective, I know I mean, I understand that, but I'm just trying to, from a county board perspective,
I completely get where you're looking at it.
yeah.
From like continuity of operations
Mhm.
and keeping things running.
It could be really a
Yeah.
big mess.
And you could get like a Herbeck, be sheriff, you know, let's say you got a job with the FBI, when the governor appoints.
Don't plant ideas like that.
Herbeck, to be the sheriff, and now he, constitutional sheriff, you know, or whatever it was, and he was gonna bring back a posse and some crazy rogue stuff, and at least there's something that we would have.
Well, in the past, that was the purpose of lieutenants. Because those were managed by the sheriff.
Yeah.
Give them direction to the sheriff, but we have to go through then, if there are any discipline issues or questions that went beyond that, we went back to the county board to find.
But you do that anyway, like you couldn't fire anyone without, well, that's not.
Deputy, you could.
I
Yeah,
could,
the chief
I could
deputy, you can
remove I can remove him from his position.
right, you can't fire him.
He still has a job waiting for him because
Our-
he had prior employment.
And our ordinance says that,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the statutes allow you to appoint people to be deputies, that you shall do this and you appoint that. Doesn't that give you the authority then to remove them?
You can undeputize them.
It gets really tricky, right? Because they're employees of the county, not.
Right, you have to reassign them.
But,
Yeah.
but you have to agree. I mean, there has to be cooperation because you need our money and we need your approval,
Yep.
you know, I mean.
And there's
to be able to run your-
balance.
So it needs to be balanced. It's just that, you know that there could be these scenarios in which
Yeah,
there's.
but I mean, I've been through your scenario,
Right.
so I've worked here through that. So,
You were here during the Berglund
yes,
Bindle
Yeah.
transition?
so,
Were you a road patrol deputy?
Yes.
at that time?
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wasn't involved with the board, but I imagine that it was a little.
Ugly out in the jail.
yeah, I've been.
Yeah, oh, that's right, I knew that. Okay. So I think. Were there any language changes that you wanted to make in section 4 about the chief deputy duties?
The only change I think I had, now I have all this stuff away. And it really wasn't, it was an addition as to positions that could be considered for chief deputy. I think it says qualifications for chief deputy. Sorry, I have two different things I was taking notes on here. Any person who is a patrol deputy sheriff, investigator, road patrol lieutenant, or dispatcher jailer in the Richland County Sheriff's Department at the time of the appointment may be selected. I would add a jail administrator to that position as a person who could be.
Right, okay.
Yep. And that's just something that'll carry throughout as we get to the different positions too, is I feel that should be added.
Okay, yep.
Yep, same thing under jail administrator, road patrol lieutenant should be somebody who could be a jail administrator.
Okay.
Good call.
What, Carrie?
This is talking about persons appointed that shall hold the office of deputy sheriff on good behavior in the county, and then if they don't, then the sheriff can something, and then it says a complaint against the deputy, and when the party filing the complaint is a sheriff or under sheriff, may suspend or demote the officer at the time such complaint is filed. The grievance committee shall be appointed in the same manner and at the same time as standing committees of the board are appointed.
This is in, chapter 59.
The committee may be made up of members of the board or other electors of the county, or both. But I was trying to look for what you were talking about, like. the
Yeah, the agreement. So did we figure out, did she ever figure out?
Oh, no, I don't think we got
No,
that.
she brought the policy back, or the contract back.
Grievance committee shall, if the officer requests a hearing, appoint a time and place for the hearing of the changes.
So that, I think, goes back to like the law enforcement officer bill of rights.
That's,
There has to
that
be
sounds like.
due process in terminating or disciplining a law enforcement officer.
Officer?
While you're looking that up, under chief deputy, I here's 3 restoration to the former position within the department of a chief deputy who is a former employee of the department shall be with tenure time for the spent time in the chief deputy position. In the past, that has not been the case. They lose their
Oh, so the time that they are spent as chief deputy does not count towards their years of service?
That's, it's in the contract as well, but the contract states, well,
oh, no, it's seniority. They lose seniority.
it stops, according to the.
Seniority
contract,
does, not tenure.
And I need to find it,
Yeah.
according to the contract, it stops at the date, seniority stops at the date they left, or freezes at the date they left the union for the position.
Right.
So,
So when they go back, so let's say they had 14 years the day they took the chief deputy, and then they spend 4 years as a chief deputy, and then they go back, they're still at the 14
they
years.
still have 14 years.
They're not at 18 years or whatever.
But their retirement and stuff can
Right.
still go.
It still accrues.
Right.
In the
It's the positions
retirement
of
system.
promotions and hires.
It's only internally within the county that they're.
In their,
time
like their
stops.
vacation and all that still builds. It
Builds
doesn't
as
revert,
regular.
it doesn't revert back.
So then my question here is, what is this tenure question then with restoration tenure?
And why do we do that?
Why do we?
Why do we freeze their, even, they're still in the department, they're still an active member of the department.
Right, it's because they're no longer part of the,
Because they're dead, because
The
you
union.
appointed them.
yeah, they're no longer part of the union. So they're
Not
not,
paying union dues.
they're not paying union dues, they're not protected by the collective bargaining agreement anymore. Their seniority, as you've been a county employee for this long, and then there's, you've been a member of the union this
Yep.
long.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Okay,
yeah. Yeah, so if you get hired as a casual and your start date with the county is whatever, and then we hire you as a patrol deputy,
it doesn't.
you still have those years of service with the county.
But from the,
But from a union standpoint, you are brand new. You start.
Yeah,
you're-
I did
you're
5 years as the casual.
so is that the tenure? Is that the terminology? Is tenure
I'm
have to do
not
with
sure what
that?
tenure means here. I'm not sure what it's meant for.
What was I looking up in the contract?
You're looking up the grievance
Grievance.
committee. And I'll stop. I think it's about 10 o'clock, so.
Yeah, it is. Dave, do you wanna, can adjourn and have you head over? Not adjourn, take a break. What do we call it?
Break, I guess, yeah.
Take a break. Dave, are you still there?
Yes, I am. You're going to take a brief recess and then I'll join you in person?
Yes, that would be wonderful.
Okay, I'll do that.
All right, thank you.
Do you keep a true and exact register of all prisoners committed to the jail and
Yes.
charge
That I have to.
in a book for that purpose?
Yes.
So we're back from break. So we are, let's see, we are to, actually, just to be official. So item 15, radio tower project updates. We're not updating today. Squad updates, we had the squad sheet on the web. Everyone can see that.
2 new cars are in service.
Yay.
There's nothing for you.
All right, future agenda items. Anyone with future agenda items? We will bring 89.7 back, obviously. I did ask, about a year ago, we did kind of a demographics evaluation where we looked at the demographics of who the sheriff's deputies are pulling over. And so we'll do that again in January, just to see where we're at. Maybe last time we were doing very well as far as no issues with particular demographics being targeted. All right, so any other future agenda items that anyone else needs to add on there? Okay, so that brings us to 18, jail inspection and evaluation of jail staff performance. Closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 1985 1C. considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Moved.
Motion by Turk,
Second.
second by Frank. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? All right, go into closed session.
Resume and then unlock the room.
Oh, yeah, go to the, yep, settings, where are the settings? He was down on the bottom.
Aaron, are you still here?
I am still here, waiting for you guys to get back.
Oh, that's exciting duty.
I swear he was on the bottom.
Did he
Go to participants, go down to participants once. And then scroll down, no, that's not it, shoot.
That's right, there's
Oh, so click on it once, can you click on it? Oh, he brought down a menu and then I just can't remember, it was from the bottom somewhere. What if you click on the three buttons next to the red X at the bottom? Over to the left a little ways.
Yeah, right there.
Oh, yeah, maybe there.
No.
No, the left of the red X. See the red X? There's three little buttons there.
Oh,
Click on there and now scroll down.
lock meeting.
Oh, there, unlock it. There you go. Good.
All right.
Meeting is unlocked. Okay. There's no action to be taken out of closed session. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
What time is it?
It is
We're not having a-
11:09, yep.
So 11:08, we came out of closed, 11:09, motion to adjourn.
So move.
So Frank. Turk, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right, we're adjourned. We did it. Before noon, Carrie. I hate to rush those things, but sometimes we're just sitting there chatting about something that's probably not necessary to chat about right at that moment.
I thought for sure we were gonna get through that ordinance debate, and then once we got going on it, I was like.
We didn't even get through what we reviewed last time. So I do think, even if it's a small committee like this, like if we can just get 4 or 5 people together. I mean.
We had
are
a
we-
motion
wait,
to adjourn
can we turn this off?
by Melissa, second by Frank.
Okay.
At
Oh, I wrote it down. It's on my thing right
Okay,
there.
at 11:09.